Please get her out of here. Okay, please. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. But she's not contagious. It's... Kat, welcome. Thank you. Relax. Nobody's so secret. All right, agenda item number 9. Consideration of resolution to approve the annual stipend of $3,000 to Connie Sorrells for the telephone system responsibility for the city of Cortland. Motion to consider.
Don't spend it all in one
Second,
place.
Bill Carpenter, discussion. So for everybody's edification, management of the city phone system is a unique responsibility that falls to one of our employees, and this is a renewal of a stipend that has been awarded in the past. And we bring a lot of items, even though they are in the budget, to council to make sure that everybody's aware that this is what's taking place. Questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, consideration of resolution to authorize the mayor to execute grant agreement contract with the New York State Office of Community Renewal, CFA Award 81942, which will provide $500,000 for no public sector match and funding for the private sector redevelopment of 83 to 85 Main Street. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Bill Carpenter, discussion. So this is a grant, it comes through the Office of Community Renewal. We essentially act as a pass-through. This is going towards a Main Street project.
Which one's 83 and 85?
The developers are Steve Franco and Jamie Yale. It's a building that has been vacant for 60 plus years. Right. I believe. The upper stories. I believe the first floor is occupied. Deputy Chief, is that fair?
There's still portions, I think, of the first floor.
Now, is this enough money to finish the project? I don't know the answer to that question. The question was, is this enough to finish the project? But I've been impressed with the developers and the progress that they've been moving on. Try to do better.
Yeah, they receive money, will receive money through the DRI too, correct?
Correct. So they have a couple of sources of funding. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 11, resolution to authorize the mayor to execute the grant agreement contract with New York State Office of Community Renewal for $750,000, no public sector match, funding for the replacement of the Clinton Avenue water main between Pomeroy and Pendleton. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. John Bennett, discussion.
This is part of the Gateway project, or?
Yeah. So, you know, you don't really want to reward procrastination. However, this is money that we initially received as a loan. There's money that we initially received as a loan, and we fell behind in terms of getting the water mains done. There was a couple of obstacles that made us push things back, and received permission from the state to push most of the work to this upcoming year. And upon a reapplication, it's gone from a loan to a grant. So this is very good news. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes. Carries. Number 12, consideration of a resolution to authorize the mayor to execute the grant agreement with New York State Office of Community Renewal, providing $200,000 with no public sector match in funding to the city's micro enterprise assistance program. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. John Bennett, discussion. So we'll have another round of seeing what we can do to help business locally. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 13, resolution to authorize the mayor to execute the grant agreement contract with the New York Department of State, providing $48,750, and it requires a 25% public sector match, funding to update and adopt the Tiafneoga River Waterfront Revitalization Program, which will guide multi-community land use along the waterfront and focus on increasing public access to the waterfront, strengthening downtowns, establishing a pedestrian bikeway trail, and protect natural resources. Motion to consider. Pat McCarthy, second. John Bennett, discussion. So this is a, yes, it requires a 25% match, and we will be, with approval, working with other communities who lie along the Tiafneoga. And the goal here is to improve access and promote and enhance the use of the Tiafneoga.
So this is the trail that was proposed like 10 years ago?
You're referring to the old river trail.
Yes.
And this is much larger in scope. This is to go towards planning, and we're talking about the Tiafneoga throughout the county.
Okay.
And essentially, the city would be taking the lead on this. And this will potentially open up future grants and fund other funding opportunities once we have some good plans in place about what we could do with riverfront property.
So when does this, just scenario, the public sector match, when did that come to? Or they have to come in play right now?
12, it'll be about 12,000.
12,200 or so.
Right, that's coming play now, or after the project?
As the project moves along, so it will be incremental.
So, if the project goes south, we don't have to spend the money, correct?
There's going to be planning meetings, and it won't be a one-shot, okay, we need to write a check. This is something that will be incremental, and we will keep council informed as progress is made.
Some of the property owners were not willing to allow that trail to go through the backyard, if I recall.
Right. And I'm sure people are aware that there are multiple communities that have been talking, communities within our county that are talking about the waterfront and ways to develop and enhance, which could improve public access, use, and keep Cortland a very livable community. So this is, just to stress, it's a planning grant. No shovels in the ground on this one. And anything that comes out of the plan would be the next step, and then that will be further discussion. If this sets us up, this is the first of a couple of steps to better improve access. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 14, resolution to designate the Cortland Standard, the Shopper, and the Cortland Area Tribune as official newspapers for the city of Cortland. Motion to consider. Bill Carpenter, second. Tom Michaels, discussion. Annual housekeeping. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 15, resolution to designate the following bank depositories for city funds: MBT Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, M&T, and the Tompkins Trust Company. It's 4. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Bill Carpenter, discussion. Again, annual housekeeping. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 16, resolution to designate Lori Crompton and Tracy Hatfield as the signatories on all accounts. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Bill Carpenter, discussion. Lori and Tracy are employees within our finance department. This is once again housekeeping and keeping it legal for them to sign things. I'm going to say it depends. Check and how much.
But you come to 50% of the budget, so
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Agenda item 17, resolution to authorize the city to submit a U.S. EPA Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act letter of interest, project plan, project operations and maintenance plan, financing plan, selection criteria, contact information, certifications, and notification of state infrastructure financing authority. And this has a $25,000 application fee with the potential to secure $9,158,100 in credit assistance to provide funding for the placement of water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure beneath Main Street and Clinton Avenue. Motion to consider. John Bennett, second. Bill Carpenter, discussion.
Yeah. And while the $25,000 amount seems like a lot, and over $9 million is 0.0027. So. You're doing your homework, yeah. I've been with our finance director way too much. Way too much. And this, as you were asking with the previous one, Troy, this does not have to be paid all at one time. It's going to be paid over the life of the project.
No.
Just for further clarification as well, this is a competitive process. And the letter that we received back, call it a pre-app, it says, and I'll pick it up and I quote, and we have reviewed these materials and are very pleased to inform you that the project has been selected to submit an application for credit assistance. So, end quote, it is a very competitive process, and it's good bellwether that we were selected to move forward at this moment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Of course, the EPA currently is not working.
So we got some time. Agenda item number 18, set a date for a public hearing on the local law for removal of language in the city code, section 102. We have to set a date for a public hearing. Rick, are you, any date in particular?
Next meeting will be fine. This is just the second section. If you recall, last month we took out some language relative to a court decision. There's a second part that we missed then. We just need to pick up that piece to take out some numbers. So if we could just have that date, the next meeting. And I'll get the local law to that.
So we'll look for the public hearing February 5th at 7 p.m. Council approval?
Okay.
Agenda item number 19, discussion on city code office fees. So we've had, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay.
I've really been waiting. I haven't heard from anybody, so that either means you're satisfied with where they're at and the numbers they're at. Then we'll just publish the pamphlet and go forward. If there were changes, this is where I would hope to have heard from you, but your silence has spoken, I guess.
So there was, for the general public, we've gone through city code office fees, and over the last 2 years, at the behest of Alderman Michaels, we have suspended the fees from the code office for essentially permits. And this has been done with the intention of encouraging people to do projects, to do work on their house, and to seek the necessary permits. Because part of the process, it's not charging a fee. That's not the goal. The goal is for our employees in code enforcement to be able to check and make sure the work is done to standard and that it is appropriate. So we've been fortunate, I think, that we've been able to waive the fees over the last 2 years. But I anticipate a significantly tight budget this year. And I would caution council to not do the same. And bearing that in mind, if we want to go back, maybe have a conversation with Deputy Chief Knickerbocker, maybe we can make some recommendations where if we think there's an opportunity to decrease or to alter some of the fees to make sure that people are still coming in to get permits without the fees being too onerous.
Speaking with Bill prior to this meeting, they did receive an influx of permits over the last 2 years with people taking advantage of this program. I hate to see it die out, but I'm willing to compromise at some point.
expired the 31st of last year, so
Yeah.
in terms of, re-upping or renewing, we had, if I may,
I was just on the line.
well, and so there's a couple of things. I think the program has worked, and it's really up to the council to decide to continue, of course. But there's one particular area, and that's roofing. Roofing's about a fifth of the permits that we do. It's over 100 a year, and it's a necessary thing. It's obvious. So, and we do the inspections on these. So there's
Yes.
labor and manpower considerations to all of this, okay? But the important thing is that folks are coming in, folks are doing it the right way. We still do run into enforcement issues, all right? We'll always have that. But the permit total has stayed pretty consistent, 5 years, 10 years. We hover around 500 a year total. That's commercial, that's everything. The residential part of that is about 160 or 80, somewhere in there, in terms of repair, alterations, work on your house, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the estimate is around $15,000. About $15,000 you would be setting aside, for the fees. That's a guess, but it's fair. It's a fair guess. Just to follow up on the roofing piece, we had considered, and we probably talked with you in the past about having a standard fee for the standard single-family overlay, that kind of thing. And it's around $75. If you were to take a standard roof like that and apply the typical fee, is about twice that. So if you, it's kind of a meet you in the middle kind of thing, if you may, for your consideration. That's just on roofing. That would probably put you a third of what you might have, so, or maybe a little bit more.
5,000-6,000.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's not quite halfway there, but. Is there any research you'd like us to do, or?
So you're saying the roofing's the majority of it?
It's a good share of it. So it's probably in terms of the residential work, it's a lot of it, yeah. It's not quite half, but it's.
Look at something to do with just the roofing, like a flat fee.
Yeah, I really, that makes it.
I fill out, I fill out 100 of these,
Well,
but I've never
here's-
done one just for strictly roofing,
here's-
and I didn't even realize it falls under the same category.
We've been talking this online ability, okay, I think that's we're getting there. Because we're not there yet. We'd really like to be able to tell you that we're doing online like that. Have you, Troy, as a contractor, when you get done with a long day of work, 12 hours, and you sit at your computer at night, you don't have to worry about walking into the office to, all right, pass the mag, it's a part of your day. So to be able to do that at night, that is a good piece too.
So roughly the average person spending, depending anywhere, about $75 to do a roof. Depends what it is, most roofs have their cost.
Well, if you've got roof, 15,000 probably. Easy, I've seen them twice.
So they're.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Something to look at.
So how about this, for the fees for roofing, we'll plan on coming back the first meeting in February, discuss roofing fees, and see if there's some research, if there are any specific questions you'd like to see addressed, bring them forward. Deputy Chief, myself, we can do some research, and we'll take a hard look at the roofing fees to see if it makes sense to make them a little less, is what it's sounding like.
Well, if we're trying to, majority of the rents of that roofing, and, obviously we want to try to generate some more money to offset stuff. But yes, we still, as Tom mentioned, we still gotta help some, help people out, so let's try to get it over here.
Compromise.
Yeah, so do a flat fee or maybe.
Because you don't want people not to make needed repairs to their house. be just the opposite, be proactive.
So right now, the fee is dependent upon the cost of the estimated cost of the work, correct? So the more that the roof will cost, the larger the permit fee.
That's correct.
So we can revisit that and see if there's a number. If anybody wants to do some research, or if you want us to look into any other municipalities, let me know, and we'll come back to that. And in the meantime, over the next week, if there are any recommendations regarding other fees, then bring those forward as well, so we'll have time and have something for council. I'm assuming there's not a lot of roofs getting done in February.
No, I didn't have any problem with any of it until, you know, what you guys were mentioning, you know, everybody's just that active with us, you know, so.
And when you say bring forward, email me so that I can get it into a printed form so everybody can see it. Don't wait till next Tuesday, then the next Tuesday, print it off before we can publish the fines. Fines.
I'll come up with a couple ideas.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Agenda item number 20, discussion regarding city staff review of the zoning code potential changes. So we have, I believe, council does not have, there's 3 pages worth of potential changes that did come forward from Deputy Chief, also from Bob Ray, who's the zoning officer. And as we were pushing forward with the zoning and the update, these were changes that, to streamline the process, we said, let's work on what the proposal that you passed this evening, let's work to finalize that. And then it being a living document, as I stated earlier, we can come back and review these. So there are 3 pages worth of recommendations. So what I'd like to do is put that forward to council and look for a public hearing February 5th as well. So we'll have 2 public hearings at our next council meeting to review these recommended changes. So we'll share that with the public. It'll go on the agenda, and if we believe there's no real concerns, then it can get passed at the next meeting. Otherwise, we will push it 2 weeks back to the 19th. If there are any major changes, then we need to make sure we publish notice and give the public enough time to comment. So that covers that. Number 21, DRI update, last official agenda item. Having conversations with Jamie Reppert from the Department of State, and we are in the midst of working through compiling an RFP for the work on Main Street. And the work on Main Street, we talk about going 2-way, but it's so much more than that. It's building to building. We're talking sidewalks, curbing, the street itself, the infrastructure underneath. So we're working on putting forward an RFP, a request for proposals, and then hopefully hearing back from architects, engineers who are interested in applying for that design work. So the plan is that we should have that completed shortly. We'll share that with council, push that out, and if we are able to stick to the timeline in another couple of months, design work, and before the end of the year, pushing to the general public what the design work is in terms of the streetscaping and how things would look, and looking for feedback so that we can tear up Main Street in 2020 and 2021 for the infrastructure repair and improvements. I have 2 more notes before we go into executive session. 1, council gets, and again for general public, council gets reports regarding city finances. And one of the things we're going to do this year is bringing back something that we have done in the past, and that is a monthly review of the reports. And we can do it every council meeting. My hope is that if we do it once, it gives us the opportunity to discuss and keep our finger on the pulse of the city budget, and also make sure that we're comfortable with where we are. So at our next meeting, we'll have a discussion, and the request to council is about format. So municipal budgets are not always easy to read, and sometimes it's difficult to make sure that we understand. So there'll be some line items that will be front-loaded. For example, DPW. their salt budget, their overtime budget is very heavy January, February. But surprise, we don't lose a lot of salt for whatever reason from April to October. However, there's other departments that are backloading, and some of our expenditures won't be until September, October, November. So we want to have that discussion now and make sure that we're aware. So moving forward, you have a good grasp of where we are, not just with the budget, but also if we have concerns, we can address them before we get to the end of the year. And I do have a question. So it's come to my attention, the Village of Homer has gone from a 2 to 4 year term for the Board of Trustees. And there's a rumor that the county may be considering a similar change, going from 2 to 4 year terms. So there's no need for us to decide, but I'll put it out there for consideration. Would council like to consider the potential to go from 2 to 4 year terms?
Yes. Yes.
You don't have to decide right now.
Yes.
Bill Carpenter is a yes, but I'll put that out there for consideration. There will be a process. We would task Corporation Council to help us make sure that we are following the process. It, I believe, would go to a referendum from the general public. However, there is a trend, and I believe it's worth having the discussion about the merits, 2 versus 4 years.
I know Tompkins County, the city had 4 year terms. That's cool. Good job.
No comment. Yes. I'm gonna die in this office. I'm old enough as this.
All right, then the last thing was a request to go into executive sessions so that we could discuss contract negotiations. We do not anticipate any action afterwards. This is simply to inform council where we are. Motion to adjourn into executive session by Bill Carpenter, second. John Bennett, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We will go into executive session. I don't anticipate this taking more than 5 minutes.
Very good.